We are back with more live breaking news in the Tony Buzbee, Jay-Z, Sean Diddy Combs, Quinn Emanuel legal battle, outright legal war between Tony Buzbee and Jay-Z. We've got daily updates, friends, because this case is so active right now. I've been covering it on all my live streams, and look what we've got here. This letter from the Buzbee law firm in regards to the news that has come out. Tony Buzbee is saying that Jay-Z has to play by the same rules as everybody else. He is asking the Manhattan federal judge to reject Jay-Z's astonishing request to change the rules for sanctions motions in this litigation against Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs. Buzbee says the rich, famous, and powerful must obey the same restrictions as everyone else. Basically, Tony Buzbee saying, Jay-Z, you don't get special treatment. If you want to bring sanctions against me, if you want the court to impose sanctions against me, you have to follow the same rules as everybody else. So this argument came in response to Jay-Z's recent allegations that Tony Buzbee, who's a Texas attorney, who's been on a civil litigation spree since Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking indictment this fall, failed to vet his client before filing a lawsuit accusing Jay-Z of taking turns assaulting a 13-year-old girl at a VMA Music Awards after party in 2000. So Tony Buzbee filed the amended complaint that then named Jay-Z as a co-defendant to Sean Diddy Combs. He pulled Jay-Z into the lawsuit, and Jay-Z, who has vehemently denied the claims, has accused Buzbee of extortion. Jay-Z has filed an extortion and intentional infliction of emotional distress lawsuit against Tony Buzbee in Los Angeles County. Jay-Z is represented by a law firm named Quinn Emanuel. And Jay-Z has threatened a sanction motion last week due to glaring inaccuracies in the anonymous plaintiff's interview with NBC News that supposedly proved her story was fabricated. So we talked about this on my other lives. This anonymous victim who claims that Jay-Z assaulted her is represented by a Texas lawyer named Tony Buzbee of the Buzbee law firm. This is his letter here to the left, friends. Tony Buzbee's law firm. This woman had said in her complaint that her father picked her up on the night of the alleged assault. And her father told NBC News that he does not have recollection of that occurring. This woman also said that she spoke with Benji Madden of Good Charlotte at that MTV Music Awards after party where she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z. However, even though she wrote that in her complaint, she told it turns out that Benji Madden was traveling overseas with Good Charlotte and was not even at that party. So there's been a lot of glaring inaccuracies in this anonymous victim's claims against Jay-Z. And Jay-Z's lawyers and Jay-Z are attacking Tony Buzbee, her lawyer, claiming that he didn't vet the claims before he went ahead and filed them. And that if that's true, that would violate Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11. But however, Tony Buzbee countered in a Friday letter, which is displayed on the screen right now, that it's outrageous to expect his client to have perfect recall of an event that happened over 2 decades ago when she was a minor. The fact that the defendant or a potential witness does not agree with or recall or recollect the facts alleged in the complaint does not and cannot give rise to a motion for sanctions for filing a baseless complaint, Tony Buzbee wrote in the letter. Defendant Jay-Z's threat of an immediate sanctions motion on the first whisper of factual uncertainty is just one more instance of bullying intended to have a chilling effect on plaintiff's counsel, and any potential plaintiffs watching these proceedings. Buzbee also slammed Jay-Z's astonishing request to shorten the mandatory 21-day waiting period for a Rule 11 motion to just 1 day, arguing that Jay-Z and his lawyers at Quinn Emanuel have shrilly maintained an entitlement to different rules and faster procedures than the general public. Like Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter is rich, famous, and powerful, Buzbee wrote, but ultimately, In our court system, the rules are the same for Mr. Carter and for the plaintiff here, and the Rule 11 safe harbor cannot be abrogated on his whim. Friday's filing by Tony Buzbee comes 2 days after Buzbee brought a lawsuit in Texas state court accusing Quinn Emanuel and JC's company, Rock Nation, of recruiting and paying his former clients to bring malpractice claims against the Buzbee law firm. So that was a lawsuit. I did go over the lawsuit by the Buzbee law firm former client, Mr. Garcia, Gerardo Garcia. I walked through the complaint where he says that investigator Jessica Santiago allegedly contacted him. He recorded the telephone conversation. They were trying to get him to sue Tony Buzbee. He claims that this private investigator has a relationship with Rock Nation, which is Jay-Z's company, and also Quinn Emanuel, which is the lawyers who represent Jay-Z. So Jay-Z and his lawyers have denied the allegations that Tony Buzbee has brought against them. Asked to comment on the letter Friday, Alex Spiro of Quinn Emanuel pointed to Tony Buzbee's earlier statement that he would administer a polygraph test to confirm his client's truthfulness. When it became crystal clear to everyone that this case is a total sham, this lawyer, who did not properly vet his claim, promised to polygraph his client, Spiro said. Where are the polygraph results? Tony Buzbee did not respond to a request for comment on Friday. So I want to turn to this letter here, and we're going to walk through this letter together, which was filed by Tony Buzbee. And in this letter, he states, by letter motion filed on December 13th, 2024, defendant Sean Carter, that's Jay-Z, notified the court of his intention to file a motion to strike and motion for sanctions immediately under Rules 11C2 and 12F. As with defendant Carter's prior letters filed in this case, it is histrionic in tone, but substantively groundless. Defendant Carter threatens the plaintiff with a Rule 11 motion based on questions raised by one single television interview concerning events occurring 24 years ago when the plaintiff, this anonymous alleged victim of Jay-Z, was only 13 years old. Defendant Carter also asks this court to alter the federal rules of civil procedure in his favor by abrogating the mandatory 21-day Rule 11 safe harbor period without any legal support or factual justification whatsoever. The former is frivolous and the latter is impermissible. Tony Buzbee is saying that Jay-Z's lawyers are asking for special treatment. They're asking for different rules to be applied to them when it comes to procedure in the court. And he does make a valid point, in my opinion. Defendant Carter's threat of a Rule 11 motion is frivolous because it characterizes run-of-the-mill disputes of fact as, quote, proof that the plaintiff's complaint is baseless. None of the factual issues that Carter identifies are sufficient even to grant summary judgment in Carter's favor, much less support Rule 11 sanctions. The fact that the defendant or a potential witness does not agree with or recollect the facts alleged in the complaint does not and cannot give rise to a motion for sanctions for filing a baseless complaint. Defendant Carter's threat of a, quote, immediate sanctions motion on the first whisper of factual uncertainty is just one more instance of bullying intended to have a chilling effect on this anonymous alleged victim, her counsel, and any potential plaintiffs watching these proceedings. Tony Buzbee is basically calling him out and saying that Jay-Z's lawyers are trying to intimidate individuals that are at stake in this litigation or potential individuals who will come forward. Next page of this letter states, a Rule 11 motion is frivolous on the additional ground that expecting a victim of sexual assault over 2 decades ago, when that victim was a minor, and as her interview revealed, also autistic, to have perfect recall of all facts is outrageous. Wow. Okay, I didn't realize the victim was autistic. Now that's interesting. So he's raising her disability in this letter. Defendant Carter twists plaintiff's words when he accuses her, for instance, of guessing at the timing of events alleged in the complaint, such as the length of car rides. But New York courts have expressly acknowledged that plaintiffs in this type of case cannot be expected to have exacting recall and command of all relevant facts. The courts have held instead that we recognize that in matters of sexual abuse involving minors, as recounted by survivors years after the fact, dates and times are sometimes approximate and incapable of calendrical exactitude, and approving allegations spanning a 4-year window of time in which the abuse could have occurred. So Tony Buzbee goes on to state there is no basis for a Rule 11 motion here, and if filed, such a motion would itself be subject to a Rule 11 motion in response. Oh my God. They are saying that if Jay-Z were to file a sanctions motion against Tony Buzbee, the lawyer for the anonymous alleged victim, they're saying that they would file a Rule 11 motion right back and say, you didn't have grounds, this is not meritorious. So the lawyers are basically just threatening one another back and forth. The lawyers for Jay-Z and the lawyers for the anonymous alleged victim are threatening one another back and forth here, friends. So Tony Buzbee goes on to write in this letter, of course, we cannot prevent defendant Carter from wasting the resources of this court and all parties in pursuing a Rule 11 motion. However, defendant Carter's request that the court, quote, shorten the filing deadline for his threatened Rule 11 motion from 21 days to 1 day is entirely improper. Carter fails to cite any precedent whatsoever to support this astounding request, because there is none. Carter also fails to cite any reason why the federal rules of civil procedure should be abrogated in his favor in this particular case. Again, there is none. So remember, friends, they're in federal court in New York. The federal rules of civil procedure set forth the procedures and the rules that govern these parties. There's typically a 21-day period for a motion of sanctions, and Jay-Z's attorneys are saying we want the expedited, we want it a 1-day time frame. And Tony Buzbee is, I think, rightfully saying he has to play by the same rules as everybody else, Your Honor. And then on the flip side of it, Jay-Z makes a valid point, because his lawyers say every darn day that this lawsuit is out there, it harms Jay-Z's reputation. It harms his businesses. It harms his family. It harms his reputation. It harms the goodwill that he has built up over many years. So Jay-Z's attorneys are saying that the circumstances actually warrant an expedited deadline. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to this channel so that you will also get our daily updates and live streams every day. We're following this case with live streams every day, friends. Buzbee goes on to write, the 21-day safe harbor under Rule 11 exists to provide parties and counsel time to assess the objections that are being made and to withdraw or modify a pleading or other paper if necessary. So this 21-day safe harbor period has been recognized by the Second Circuit as a strict procedural requirement. So it cannot be shortened here because Mr. Carter and his counsel request as much, whether as an attempt to play gotcha or to exert additional pressure on the plaintiff, who's an anonymous alleged victim of Jay-Z, or for any other reason. From the outset, defendant Carter and his counsel have shrilly maintained an entitlement to different rules and faster procedures, from expedited briefing on the issue of anonymity and a summary dismissal of plaintiff's complaint to now a wholesale elimination of the 21-day safe harbor rule. So basically, Tony Buzbee is calling out Jay-Z's lawyers, saying that you're asking for special treatment all over the place for your client. Just because he's famous, he's a celebrity, you're trying to get special treatment. Next, Tony Buzbee goes on to say that outside of the courtroom, Mr. Carter has employed tactics of intimidation and harassment, even more extreme, tortious, and quite possibly illegal. My firm, Tony Buzbee says, my firm recently filed a lawsuit in Harris County, Texas, that details how Mr. Carter's company, Rock Nation, and his counsel have bribed my clients to file lawsuits against my firm, threatened former clients, impersonated state officials, and engaged in other behavior far beyond the pale of acceptable conduct. Their tactics won't work, and they will be addressed in more detail in connection with the parties' briefing on plaintiff's anonymity. Let's go to the next page. And I did a full live stream yesterday on that complaint that Tony Buzbee filed in Texas State Court on behalf of one of his former clients named Gerardo Garcia. And he makes allegations that he was approached by, were allegedly associated with Rock Nation and Jay-Z's lawyers, Quinn Emanuel, to try to persuade that former client to sue Tony Buzbee, even though he was perfectly happy with the results of his case. So let's move on to the last page of this letter that Tony Buzbee wrote to the court. Like Mr. Combs, Mr. Carter is rich, famous, and powerful. Mr. Carter will exact all the pressure he can to intimidate and harass the plaintiff, me or anyone else. The chilling effect of those efforts is substantial, as is the potential chilling effect of a Rule 11 motion being brought in these circumstances. But ultimately, in our court system, the rules are the same for Mr. Carter and for the plaintiff here, and the Rule 11 safe harbor cannot be abrogated on his whim. Finally, defendant Carter raises the status of my admission in the Southern District of New York. As with his previous letters to this court, his December 13 letter includes a substantial amount of defamatory suggestions about me, including that I am somehow attempting to circumvent the authority of this court to enforce Rule 11 against me. This is nonsense. I am a member of the State Bar of New York, and I am admitted to the Eastern District of New York. I intend to apply for reciprocal admission to the Southern District of New York. The fact that I have signed pleadings and letters filed in this court does not reflect any attempt by me to evade responsibility for anything. To the contrary, I have signed those pleadings and papers because I am lead counsel in this and other similar cases pending in this district. Respectfully, Anthony G. Buzbee. So this is yet more allegations from Jay-Z's attorneys against Buzbee, claiming that he intentionally tried to not get admitted into the Southern District of New York, pro hoc vice, and to try to avoid being sanctioned by the court. So when you are admitted to practice in one jurisdiction and you are not admitted to practice in that other court, you have to apply through a process called pro hoc vice. And if you have to go through procedure, it's a fairly easy process, and then you can go ahead and practice in that court. Well, Tony Buzbee, for some reason, hasn't done that yet. I don't know why he's dragging his feet. He's a New York attorney. He's licensed by the state of New York. As he said, he's already admitted to practice in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York, and he does handle cases in the Southern District of New York, so I don't know why he's dragging his feet. But for what he better just do it. Just do it. Just apply pro hoc vice and you'll shut up Jay-Z's lawyers. So regardless, bottom line here is that we've now got this continued back and forth between Tony Buzbee's law firm, who represents the anonymous alleged victim of Jay-Z, and then Quinn Emanuel, the law firm who's led by Alex Spiro and Quinn Emanuel, and they represent Jay-Z. And it's really crazy, friends, because in this case, it is the lawyers who are spewing the most venom at each other. We've got ethical allegations. We've got allegations that the lawyers are not complying with the federal rules of civil procedure. We've got Jay-Z's attorney saying we're going to file for sanctions against Tony Buzbee. And we've got Jay-Z going live on X and going live on his social media. And we've got Tony Buzbee going live on his social media saying, you're not going to intimidate me. You're not going to bully me, Jay-Z. He says, I'm a former Marine, and I'm tough, and I'm not going to be intimidated by you. And I'm going to continue to bring these lawsuits on behalf of alleged victims of Sean Diddy Combs. And I named you, Jay-Z. And he's like, I'm not backing down to you just because you're rich, powerful, and famous. I understand both sides of it, friends. I understand both sides of the coin. I think both sides have valid points. I understand Jay-Z's position because he has worked hard to have the reputation and build the businesses and the success and the family life that he has. And every day that this lawsuit has his name attached to it, where he allegedly tag team assaulted a 13-year-old girl with Sean Diddy Combs, those are heinous allegations to have associated with his name. And if they are not true, then I certainly understand Jay-Z's position, that he feels that every day his name is out there and being defamed. And that's why his lawyers are saying to this court, we need to be heard on an expedited schedule. We want this federal rule 11 sanctions motion to be heard within 1 day. We don't want to wait the full 21 days. This is doing so much harm to Jay-Z's reputation. I cover all of the filings in this case on all of my prior live streams. So friends, if you go back through my live streams, go through the playlists, you will see live stream after live stream after live stream where I go through real legal proceedings. I go through the letters that have been filed by both sides, both counsel. I go through all of their filings. Just yesterday, I went through the complaint that was filed by Gerardo Garcia, a former client of Tony Buzbee, who's claiming that a private investigator, Jessica Santiago, who's affiliated with Rock Nation, and Marcy Croft, affiliated with Quinn Emanuel, Jay-Z's lawyers, attempted to try to get him to sue Tony Buzbee. And Tony Buzbee is claiming that Jay-Z's lawyers are reaching out to scores of his former clients, trying to get them to bring lawsuits against the Buzbee law firm to try to make it impossible for the Buzbee law firm to continue to bring these claims against Sean Diddy Combs and this lawsuit against Jay-Z. And I also went through the motion that Jay-Z filed. Jay-Z filed a motion saying that asking the court to strike the complaint of this anonymous alleged victim. And he was basically like, you can leave Sean Diddy Combs' name on it. You can leave him in the suit, but at least dismiss the suit with respect to me. Remove Jay-Z from it. And I thought it's just interesting. It's just an interesting dynamic because he's saying she hasn't met has not met the requirements to even maintain the suit against me. But I agree with Tony Buzbee when he says, no, just because there's some factual inconsistencies in her story, it doesn't mean that the lawyers didn't do their research. It doesn't mean that the lawyers should be subject to discipline. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that she's lying. Because as the case law in New York has recognized, New York federal courts have recognized that especially when it comes to sexual abuse of minors, and especially because, this crime happened 24 years ago in the year 2000, when this alleged victim was only 13 years old, it's natural that memories fade, friends. It's natural that she's not going to remember every single detail. Now, I do agree with Jay-Z's lawyers when they say, well, but isn't it damn fishy that her own father doesn't remember picking her up? Because in her complaint, this alleged victim says that on the night she was allegedly assaulted by Jay-Z, her father came and picked her up at a gas station afterwards. Well, her father told NBC News that he has no recollection of that. He says, I think I would have remembered that, and I don't remember that. And he also lived 5 hours away from where the after party was. So he said, I don't remember taking that drive. So that is a little fishy because, if your daughter's been assaulted, if you're driving, you would likely remember that. That I think is the most damning, glaring inconsistency. But the fact that she's saying like, oh, well, I spoke with Benji Madden at the party, but Benji Madden was elsewhere touring. That also is a little bit, that also is fishy because the victim in this, I'm sorry, but with all due respect to the victim, and if these allegations are true, friends, please know I have the utmost of empathy for her. I really do. But as an attorney myself and kind of looking from fact to fact, it is very inconsistent when she says, I'm so sure I am certain that I spoke with Benji Madden at that after party where Jay-Z allegedly assaulted me, but then Benji Madden was actually on tour with Good Charlotte overseas. He was not at that party. There's some other glaring inaccuracies between what this anonymous alleged victim has filed in her complaint and what she told NBC News, or what has surfaced from the proofs. So, she's very certain that this assault by Jay-Z happened at Sean Combs' home. She describes, his alleged, residence with a U-shaped driveway. She's very specific about the residence that this alleged assault happened at. But there are photographs of that night of Jennifer Lopez and Sean Diddy Combs at both Lotus nightclub and Twirl nightclub. So they were out at a nightclub, and then listen, yes, it's possible that the after party happened after, but it's just the timeline, friends. And then also there are photos of Jay-Z elsewhere at a nightclub that night. So what the point of Jay-Z's lawyers are saying is that the math ain't mathin'. The story is not adding up here, and she is ruining Jay-Z. They're claiming she is ruining Jay-Z's reputation. But what I will say is I agree with Tony Buzbee, who represents the anonymous alleged victim, on one point. I agree with Tony Buzbee that these factual inaccuracies are not enough for summary judgment. They are not enough for the court to just toss out the complaint. And that is essentially what Jay-Z is asking them to do. Jay-Z is asking the court to strike the anonymous alleged victim's complaint in its entirety as against him. And he says, I shouldn't even have to defend this frivolous lawsuit. And his lawyers are saying, hey, Tony Buzbee didn't do his research. But listen, it is run of the mill, as Tony Buzbee says. It is natural that there are going to be some factual inaccuracies that come up. And guess what? That's what cross-examination is for. That's what cross-examination is for. If you find factual inaccuracies in what the alleged victim states in her complaint versus what she's telling NBC News or what her father is telling NBC News, then that is the job of Jay-Z's lawyers, to cross-examine her and bring out these factual inaccuracies. It is not incumbent on the court to have to dismiss this complaint against her. In my opinion, the court should let this go through. They should, even though I do have empathy for Jay-Z, if these allegations are false, I have the utmost empathy to Jay-Z for having to go through this, because this would be highly damaging to his reputation. But friends, you have to let the justice system do its job. You have to let this go through, and it's going to have a discovery phase where Jay-Z is going to be allowed to request that Jay-Z is going to be allowed to take the deposition of this anonymous victim. But it's interesting. Her name is not being released. So there's going to have to be some safeguards put in place. When she's deposed, there's going to have to be some way to protect her confidentiality, unless the court grants Jay-Z's motion to require her to release her name to him. Because Jay-Z is saying, look, this alleged victim is claiming that I assaulted her 24 years ago, but she won't tell me what her name is. She won't identify herself. So how on earth can I defend against her allegations? If I knew who she was, I could poke holes in her story. I could do research on her. I could find other witnesses that would not corroborate her story, or that would contradict her story. So I do understand Jay-Z's point I definitely do understand his point on that. But Jay-Z, if this complaint is allowed to stand, if the court does not dismiss or strike this complaint that she has filed against Jay-Z, then Jay-Z will have his day in court. He will have his opportunity to go through the entire civil litigation process. He can get discovery from her. He can serve her with requests for admission. He can serve her with requests for interrogatories. He can serve her with requests for production of documents. He can compel her to produce text messages, emails, video, audio, anything that she is intending to use as proof against him. Now, notably, she can do the same because the plaintiff also has the right to compel discovery against the defendant. She can require Jay-Z to produce texts, emails, video, audio, anything that he has that he intends to use in his defense or against her. I'll be interested to see if he files a counterclaim or some type of claim against her. And quite frankly, friends, he will have his chance to serve her with requests for admission where he can ask her to admit or deny certain facts and put it in writing, and he can use that later on to cross-examine her. He can ask her for requests for interrogatory. They're called written interrogatories, where he will get to serve her a list of questions where she will have to sign her name and sign off on it and answer these questions in writing. And then his attorneys will be able to use that to cross-examine her later on at trial if this goes to trial. And I bet you that Tony Buzbee was hoping this wouldn't go to trial because, as we know, this whole saga started because Tony Buzbee filed a lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs saying that there was this unnamed celebrity that also participated in the alleged assault against this victim. And then Tony Buzbee quietly, privately sent a letter to Jay-Z called a demand letter asking Jay-Z for a confidential sit down with us and talk about this and mediate this and not have to, don't make me put your name out there, Jay-Z. That's what Tony Buzbee said. Don't make me put Jay-Z is basically characterizing this as that Tony Buzbee was trying to extort him for money and he was trying to get hush money. So Jay-Z filed a lawsuit in LA Superior Court, and he didn't list his name as Sean Carter on the lawsuit. He listed himself as an anonymous male celebrity and sued Tony Buzbee and said, I am the anonymous male celebrity. I'm not saying my name, but I am the anonymous male celebrity who Tony Buzbee has sued. Who Tony Buzbee has referenced in his lawsuit against Sean Diddy Combs. And he said, this lawyer is extorting me. He's sending me private demand letters to try to get me to give hush money to this victim, to this alleged victim. I have to be very careful to say alleged victim because we don't know. We don't know. And then Tony Buzbee said, you know what, Jay-Z sued Tony Buzbee, and Tony Buzbee said, well, you know what? Now I'm going to name you, Jay-Z. You sued me. You sued me in LA Superior Court. Now I'm going to name you, my friend. So Tony Buzbee then refiled an amended complaint. It's referred to in all these letters of motions as the FAC, the first amended complaint. Tony Buzbee filed in New York federal court a first amended complaint where now he not only named Sean Diddy Combs, but he also named Jay-Z. And that was there's some very heinous allegations in that complaint on behalf of this anonymous victim. Her identity is not revealed, and she has permission of the court to file this as an anonymous victim because she was a minor. If she was in fact assaulted, she was a minor, 13 years old at the time that she alleges that Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs assaulted her at a MTV VMA Music Video Awards after party in the year 2000. So 24 years ago, friends. 24 years ago. So guys, this has been a long saga. So once Jay-Z got named, once Tony Buzbee filed that amended complaint where he named Jay-Z, all hell broke loose because Jay-Z has moved for sanctions. He has asked the court to enter a preservation order because he says that Tony Buzbee's law firm will destroy evidence that's relevant to this case. He says you need to put an order in place, Your Honor, that would prevent them from destroying relevant evidence. Jay-Z has filed a motion to strike the complaint. I mean, friend, and then we've got the lawyers suing each other. Like, it's obscene. Like, it's absolutely obscene. We've got more mud being slung back and forth between the lawyers, calling each other unethical, my friend. So this is a crazy. I have not seen anything like this that has been so widely of interest or so much going on a daily basis since the Johnny Depp trial. I have not seen anything. We've got updates coming out every day. There are new filings in this case every day, friends. And I am bringing them to you live every day on daily live stream. So subscribe to the channel. Help us grow our channel. We are actually coming to you live every day with daily updates. As a lawyer myself, I have access to these legal pleadings, the actual legal filings that are filed in the court. For example, this letter that was filed by Tony Buzbee of the Buzbee Law Firm. So I am able to get these. I'm able to get these timely. The same day that, essentially the same day or the day after they're filed, I'm able to get these motions, these letters in this case, and I'm going to be bringing them to you live and just putting them right up on the screen, friends, of everything that's filed in this case, because this case is of top interest to myself. The impact that this case is going to have on the legal landscape is going to be significant. The way that the judge rules or the jury ultimately finds in this case, if it goes to trial, if the judge does not throw out this complaint, if it goes to a trial, the jury verdict and the way that the court handles this case is going to have precedential impact and major impact for how other celebrity cases are handled that have to do with alleged sexual abuse. So remember, friends, I'm covering it all here live. Subscribe to the channel. Help support the channel. We are a new, young channel. We just started 2 weeks ago. We come to you every day live, sometimes twice a day live. We have over 40,000 views in the first 2 weeks. I try to respond to every single comment. Thank you guys so much for all your comments. I love conversating with you in the comments. And you guys have some really great insight. You guys have some amazing thoughts and insight on this case. So go ahead and pop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. And I will be coming to you live again tomorrow with more updates. I'm also covering the Vanderpump Rules litigation, the Lala Kent trademark lawsuit with Give Them a Lala. She sued the New Jersey company Cosmesi LLC, where she alleges that they infringed upon her Give Them Lala trademark, allegedly breached an agreement. We've got Tom Sandoval. Oh, Madonna, he's representing himself, my friends. So friends, go ahead. Also enter our giveaway. We have a channel giveaway. If you go to our channel page, we have the giveaway video in the videos playlist, and you can go ahead and click on the giveaway link and win an Amazon gift card. Enter for a chance to win an Amazon gift card, because we are celebrating our birth and inception this year on this channel. We are celebrating being at over 40,000 views in our first 2 weeks live. We are celebrating going live every single day and bringing you live updates on the celebrity and entertainment legal news. I bring you real life pleadings and motions that are filed on the docket of these celebrity cases. I'm covering the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie legal drama, where the judge recently has ruled that Brad Pitt will have to produce documents that Angelina Jolie says will prove that he was domestically violent towards her and her family. So that's a big story to watch too, friends. And I've been covering that Brad Pitt. I've been watching that Brad Pitt docket like a hawk, because there's going to be some movement in there, I suspect, soon. Jolie's camp was insinuating that she wants to end that litigation soon, but we don't know if that's going to happen. So friends, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button. We love your support. Leave a comment, friends. I will respond to each comment that comes in. I love hearing from you guys. You are what makes this channel great. Thank you so much all for tuning in with me tonight. And I will see you daily for our live streams. And I will continue to cover all aspects of the Sean Diddy Combs federal criminal prosecution. I just did a video where I covered his motion to voluntarily dismiss his appeal of the judge's denial of his pretrial release request. Basically, Sean Diddy Combs has given up on his fight to be released on bail after several judges have denied his request for pretrial release. Diddy Combs has officially withdrawn that appeal, and he has certified to the court with his signature that he understands that means that he will likely just sit in jail until May 5th, 2025, which is when his federal criminal trial starts. Sean Diddy Combs will be going to trial before a federal jury on May 5th, 2025, and you bet that I'm going to be covering it, friends. In fact, I'm going to see if we can get it live streamed right in here on this channel. The Johnny Depp trial was huge. They broadcast that live. I don't know if New York is going to do that, if New York courts are going to allow that. But the bottom line is that we are going to be covering every aspect of this case. We have also been covering the slew of civil suits that have been filed against Sean Diddy Combs, and that's entirely separate from his criminal prosecution. He is getting sued left and right by victims, male and female, about 20 of which are represented by Tony Buzbee's law firm. And these victims are coming out of the woodworks claiming that Sean Diddy Combs has allegedly assaulted them or sex trafficked them. Sean Diddy Combs is in a world of legal trouble right now from all angles. And Jay-Z has sadly, listen, I'm going to be neutral on this channel. I'm not going to say, Jay-Z, the fact is that he has been pulled into it. He's now been pulled into this complaint, this amended complaint that has been filed by Tony Buzbee on behalf of an anonymous victim. So guys, let me know in the comments what stories you're interested in following. We're following the Vanderpump Rules litigation. We're following the Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie litigation. We're following the Sean Diddy Combs litigation, both federal criminal trial and also his civil suits. We're following the Jay-Z lawsuit. We're following all of the back and forth filings that happen on a daily basis between the Buzbee law firm that represents the anonymous accuser of Jay-Z and the Quinn Emanuel law firm that represents Jay-Z. So friends, let me know in the comments what you think. Subscribe to the channel. It helps support us grow. It helps us get more reach on YouTube, and we really appreciate you subscribing. It is amazing, like I said. Thank you so much for all the comments and the love. And give us feedback. Give us things that you think we could do better. We are wanting your input to help grow this channel together. Thank you so much for being with me tonight, and I will see you tomorrow live, and I'll be showing you some more real-life legal filings. Real-life legal filings I'll be showing you here on the Celebrity and Entertainment Legal News. Thank you so much, friends, and have a great rest of your night.